New developments tonight on a story we first brought you last week from the Florida Center for Investigative Reporting, that officials in Florida's Department of Environmental Protection were banned from using the words climate change in official reports and communications, and that this unwritten policy began in 2011 after Rick Scott, an established climate change denier, came into office. And we spoke to Christopher Byrd, a former senior assistant general counsel for Florida's Department of Environmental Protection.
Shortly after Rick Scott was elected in 2010 and was inaugurated at the beginning of the next year, 2011, the General Counsel's office called a staff meeting with all the lawyers to warn us that things were going to change under the new administration. And within those changes were certain policies that would prohibit us from using these terms: climate change, global warming, sustainability, and even sea level rise.
Now, Governor Rick Scott denied this reporting.
Governor, were you aware that scientists were being told not to speak about climate change, and will scientists in the future be able to speak about climate change in their studies?
Sure. Well, first off, that's untrue. At our Department of Environmental Protection, look, there's lots of conversations about this issue.
Okay, that's untrue, he says. But despite that official denial, straight from the governor's lips, further reporting from the Florida Center for Investigative Reporting indicates the ban is widespread across multiple government agencies, not just the DEP. And in fact, just yesterday, we got to see what that looked like as a real-life example in action. At a Florida Senate subcommittee hearing, Governor Scott's Chief of Emergency Management, Brian Kuhn, seemed so determined not to say or even repeat the words climate change that lawmakers in the hearing created a running joke about it. Take a look.
What were those words you were using?
I used climate change, but I'm suggesting that maybe as a state we use atmospheric reemployment. That might be something that the governor could get behind.
But my understanding is at this point is it will require that future versions of our mitigation plan will be required to have language discussing that issue.
What issue is that?
The issue that you mentioned earlier regarding
So much. I'm going to turn the chair back over. Well, maybe I shouldn't right now.
All right, now, on top of all this, there's a current Department of Environmental Protection employee who says he was suspended from his job for sharing his views on the Keystone XL pipeline and climate change during a coastal managers forum in Tallahassee. DEP officials say he's on leave, and that man joins me now, Bart Bibler, an employee at the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Mr. Bibler, tell me what happened.
I participated in a conference call, and one of the agenda items on the Florida Coastal Managers Forum conference call was a report by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission regarding habitat and wildlife adaptation to sea level rise. The next agenda item was agency updates, where several other agencies said that they did have some plans regarding sea level rise or climate change. And as I was introduced, I first said that I was glad to see that the subject was being discussed in land management plans. My role at DEP is coordination of all state land management plans, and yet that I personally had a strong position on stopping the Keystone XL pipeline, because to me it is the litmus test of whether we're going to deal with climate change or not.
Okay, so you said that in this conference call, which seems, you know, maybe slightly off topic, but not a huge violation. What happened next?
The conference call moderator was very shocked by my statements, asked me whether that was my personal opinion or the position of my Division of State Lands. I made clear it was my personal position. She also said she was concerned whether the Florida Coastal Managers Forum would be allowed to continue having conference calls, as though I had done something that crossed the line.
And then what happened next?
After the conference call, I typed up my notes about the different reports by different agencies regarding sea level rise and climate change, and I sent it to my boss and her boss, the division director, as well as the conference call moderator.
And how did they respond?
Well, the moderator was concerned because the way I typed up my notes was using her Word document of the agenda and just adding those reports. And she thought that I was trying to make it look like her agenda had these reports with the words climate change and sea level rise in them. So she called my boss, who then directed me to revise the document so that I removed the word agenda and showed that this was a meeting summary, partial meeting summary, which I did, and I resent the document.
And then you were ordered to seek psychiatric evaluation?
Well, first I was given a reprimand and told to take 2 days of annual leave and not come to the office. At the end of the second day of annual leave, my boss delivered to me a letter stating I was to be on compulsory disability leave indefinitely until I got a doctor to state that I was fit to return and conduct my job responsibilities.
Wait, it's okay. And this is all because you said you thought the Keystone Pipeline was a bad idea. That was your personal opinion, and then wrote up notes in a way that made the conference moderator fear you were imputing to her an official agenda that dared to use the terms global warming, climate change, sea level rise.
That's correct.
So what now? Are you still an employee?
I'm still an employee, but I must obtain a psychiatrist essentially to sign these release forms stating that I'm fit to return to my job.
You have to get someone to say that you're sane because you spoke up about the fact that Florida is going to be swallowed by sea level rise, is what you're saying.
Essentially, yes.
This is remarkable. Well, we're going to stay on this story. We'd love to get some official response. Governor Scott, if you or any of your people are watching this, anyone from the DEP, we'd love to talk to you, get your account of this. Bart Bibler, currently an employee of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, as it stands now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can you? All right.